If I look at my schedule and realize that I don't literally have to be in front of a computer during like a 3 or 4 hour stint, I want to just jump in the boat and put my headphones in and take the calls from the boat. So this is a topwater bait with lots of hooks. Sometimes you throw a bait that is hookless or weedless, where you can throw directly into the weeds. Like there's little frogs that you can throw up in that crap, and there may be a 10-pound bass in it and they'll come up through it. But if you throw this over there, it won't work because there's all these little hooks on it. Think about what fish eat is called a what? A bait, right? So is it safe to say some days the fish will eat this bait and some days it won't? Yeah, I mean, there's days, times, there's all these different things that affect the fish bite. Sales is the same way. Like when you're in doing marketing and lead gen, you're like, all right, what kind of fish are you going after? What type of bait do they typically bite? What are they hungry for? When do they eat? Where do they sleep? Where are they congregating? And that's how you market and you sell, is going to exactly where the fish are, knowing exactly what they're gonna bite, and putting the bait in front of them. So like a lead magnet, let's say like in Dealmaker, we're giving out a free ebook that teaches them how to buy businesses. That's the bait. We know that the right fish will say, ooh, that looks good, and they'll go and they'll bite it. We know that they'll opt in. But if you go with the right bait to the right fish, but they're not there, you're not gonna catch anything, right? So like if you went to Reddit, let's say you're going to Reddit Lake instead of Facebook Lake. Is our avatar swimming in Reddit Lake? No, right? So that's the whole point. Not only do you have the right bait, you have to understand what the fish that you're going after is gonna eat and what kind of bait that they're gonna bite on, but you gotta go to where the fish are congregating. So we know our customer avatar for that business is on Facebook. We know it's on Instagram. We know it's on LinkedIn, yet the Reddit basement trolls, they're not there. No offense to Reddit basement trolls. I've got some in my family, but that's the whole idea of it, right? So let's get back to other ways we look at customers and sales and marketing when it comes to analogies with fishing. Think about the size of the fish, right? So the bigger fish eat bigger baits. The bigger fish have different behaviors than smaller fish. So also depending on the type of customer you're going for, or maybe the size of the product you're selling, you have to change that up a little bit. Like if I'm going after big fish, I'm going after it with a bigger fish bait. This is a whopper plopper, and the whopper plopper attracts a larger fish. We caught what, at least a 3-pounder and almost a 5-pounder in back-to-back casts a minute ago with the whopper plopper. If I put this down and I pick up a small fish bait, I'm gonna go out and attract small fish. So just kind of understanding what you're fishing for is huge, right? So David asked me, what do I know about fishing? How did I choose this spot over the other spots? And it's so many things: the sun, the moon, the temperature of the water, the temperature of the air, the cold fronts, the depth, the clarity of the water, the type of grass in the water, the time of day. Like all those things affect the bite. And from researching for a long time, I know when to fish, how to fish, and like professionals, they're the best at it, right? But that's the same thing with marketing. Like if you go and just decide one day that you're gonna be a marketer and you're gonna run an ad or a Facebook ad and just assume it's gonna work, it's a game of inches. It's a game of trial and error. It's a game of knowing what you're doing, being able to predict success. So in business, Lauren, you've been hearing me for years talking about being able to predict success. That's what people want to hear when they hire you to do something, is that you can predict success. And that's the same thing in fishing. I'm predicting success by picking up this bait. It wasn't random. I know where I am. It's in the evening. I'm fishing topwater in the summer in one of the best bass lakes in the country, and I'm throwing something that I've caught, what we call a confidence bait. Ooh, there's a big swirl right there. Something that I've caught a lot of fish on, right? So for me, like a Facebook ad giving away a training bundle is a confidence bait, right? Just like my whopper plopper. Sometimes you see me visualizing the success and I like even bark at it or make noises, or I'm visualizing a fish hitting it, and it makes me feel special. You know what's interesting? So sometimes there's a lot of people who pick up a lure like this and say they miss a fish, or maybe the fish is not super committed to it, and that happens, where a fish comes up and swipes its body at it, or it bites it but doesn't really like swallow it. Sometimes you drop the pole real fast, pick up another pole, and you throw a different bait, and they'll hit that bait, and you've identified that the fish is there. You've identified that it will strike or it will bite, but maybe what you threw at them wasn't a perfect fit. So now I picked up something called a chug bug, but maybe if I would have been throwing this the whole time, I may have caught 5 fish. I don't know, but we'll see in just a second. So we're gonna try something a little different. We're gonna throw this chug bug out and give them a different presentation. Just like some days you're into Chinese food, some days you're into steak. Some day you just want a good salad. Some days you want Zaxby's. You know, it's just the fish are the same way. And if you're me and you've got mostly all women in the household, you stop asking questions like, what do you want for dinner? Because they don't know anyway. They're like, I don't know. I don't know. Well, you want Chinese? I don't know. You want Mexican? I don't know. Okay. So just like that, I have to throw out several baits sometimes to my girls to figure out which one they'll bite. What about Hardee's? What about going to Publix and getting a sub? What about $5 sushi on Wednesdays? What about, you know, like, it's the same thing. So we're just trying things out. Sometimes you're throwing all the right baits and all the right stuff, but the fish just aren't hungry too. And that shows you that, hey, you've got a demand issue and you haven't figured out what they want, or maybe your timing's wrong. Could just be a bad day. Could have faulty equipment. There's all kinds of things. I like having girls though, it's cool. You know, being a girl dad is definitely different, I imagine, than a boy dad. We're not roughhousing as much. We do wrestle, and you know what though? My girls are good without me having to worry about that. They have their own things that they're into, but you know, they're not super boy crazy at that level. They're not as crazy as I was, trust me. It's a different world though. Like, we didn't have smartphones and all that crap back then. So I don't know, but no, I just, please God, don't let them be like me. And my mom's over here saying, ha ha, I'm gonna laugh at you because they're gonna be just like you. And I'm like, ugh. So yeah, who knows? Who knows? But so far we've been lucky. When we moved out here to Scottsboro, first thing I did with Sydney, it was during the summer at the end of school for them. First thing I did for Sydney is I put her in youth group. So she'd know people as soon as she got into school, she wouldn't not know anybody. And then, I mean, just 3 days ago, we picked her up from a mission trip. So 2 years later, almost 3 years later, she's still rocking it. So, you know, you're a product of your environment at some level. So I've been trying to get them in the right environment. I've learned patience, and I've also learned that I have to control how I react to things and things I say. It's little things, even things that every human being like deals with. Like, I figured if I had all boys and if they were passing gas or farting, we could make jokes about it. You can't do that with girls. Well, you can, but you can offend them as well and make them feel self-conscious. You know, so you got to be careful there, but it's all little things. I learned that sometimes they just don't want to be around you, and you can't force it, and you got to give them space. I also learned that you got to let them make their own decisions at some level, even if it's an error, at some level, and be okay with it. And you also understand that they're going to mimic you, so you need to be more intentional about the way you act. If you cuss, they cuss. If you drink and make it extremely normal and part of life, they're going to make it very normal and part of life. So if you don't want your kids drinking, then don't just tell them not to drink and then drink in front of them. Don't drink. Like, to me, it's monkey see, monkey do is one of my biggest lessons I've learned. I grew up in a household where my grandma, she passed away a couple months ago, lived a long life. She was the founder of the Gifted program. Do you guys know what Gifted means? Just in case people listening don't, you know, it means you have passed a certain score on an IQ test and you qualify for what they call gifted classes. So she was the founder of the Gifted program in South Florida. I grew up in an academic household where academia and vocabulary and copying definitions from the dictionary is what I was doing at 5 and 6 and 7. She lived with us. Shorty was her name. That's what we called her. So, you know, I lived in a world where intellectual type stuff and academia was so important. Believe it or not, it's not near as a focus as it is in my household as it was when I was a kid. Like, I don't beat my kids over the head with it. I don't make them do homework. They don't have homework. I'm not upset about it. They enjoy school. I don't want school to feel negative whatsoever. I'd rather them get, and this may be, you can comment if you disagree and I don't care. I'd rather them get a worse education and look back at their life and realize that school was a fun, positive, exciting environment than be a frickin' brainiac, only caring about getting good grades and hating everything. And that's just me, because I also know that high school is something you get through and then you're done with it and you never have to do it again. And also today's world, college is less and less relevant for a lot of different career paths. And with the world that I've built, my empire that I've been building, my girls can pretty much write their own ticket. They can go wherever they want. I'm gonna let them, if my younger one wants to go to art school, she's going to art school and I'll pay for it. She's gonna work and she's gonna pay for her own stuff to teach her the stuff she needs to learn, just like I did. But I didn't have anyone paying for anything for me, nothing. And maybe my mom's looking at this and Nothing against anything the way I was raised, but I very rarely in my life had the opportunity for someone to say, what does Chris want? What do you want to do? What does Chris want? Like, no one ever asked me that. And I wasn't in my mom's house like during those years, but in general, like I didn't have choices. I didn't get to make choices of where I wanted to go to college or didn't go to college, or, you know, it's just, we kind of did what we were told to do. And nothing negative. Everyone was doing their best, but like, I want my kids to have choices. So I've been engineering the life that I'm living to give my kids unlimited choices. If Sydney wants to go to Europe for a year, let's go. I may fly with her on the way there to feel safe about it, but I'm gonna make it happen, and I'll have her work for it and figure out how to make it happen herself and make sure she feels like validated that she made this happen. She worked for it. I'm not gonna give it to them, but that's how I feel about it. That's just my opinion. So I'm not gonna beat her. I had them in private school from pre-K. My in-laws paid for it for several years there, actually. Had my kids in private school, at a Catholic school, very rigorous, very hard, very difficult in Huntsville. It's called Holy Spirit, great school. And they had a good time, they enjoyed it, but they also struggled, and they had 3 hours of homework in third grade. Like, that's not what I want for my kids, heck no. That's why we moved out here and put them in public school and just let them be normal and have fun. I just don't want that. Because I did that, dude. I had all the homework. I was literally copying definitions from the dictionary. I hate it. And to this day, if there's one classification of person that I don't get along with, it's academics, elitists. Most of the time, I don't get along with people who are extremely well educated, and then they, just because I don't have a college degree, look down on me or talk condescending. Like, that's how you get Chris to get upset. Very few things make me upset, but that's one of them. So that's all good now. I think the high school systems and the middle school systems need to teach more trades and tech than they do just standard studies, because you're never using history again after you're done. You're not going to use algebra 2 after you're done, or calculus. Like, unless you're going into STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, you're not using that crap ever again. So I think they're teaching you how to be good test takers so they can get the funding from the state. That 100% agree with you. Instead of setting them up for success. And I think we're seeing a shift. We're seeing schools pop up that are focused more on that, and we have to. And there's people out there that are lobbying for that, and that's huge, and we need that. But yeah, I agree. For me, unless you're really going into something that 100% needs a college degree, like in teaching and STEM and medicine and engineering and stuff, those people need to go to college. We need all those people, and they make good money, and it's great, but kids need to know that there's lots of options available. The other thing is, kids don't have perspective. How do they know what they like? They go to a career fair and they pick something that made them feel special that day, right? And that's where they go and major in college. So many kids change their major and piss away money and piss away years of college because they realize, like, oh crap, I don't want to do this forever, right? I mean, how's an 18-year-old supposed to choose their path? They have no freaking clue. They haven't lived, they haven't experienced, they haven't tried things and gotten a feedback loop to say, yes, I like this. This fills my cup. This makes me excited. Speaking of being excited, I wish a damn fish would bite right now. I make them aware of all the opportunities there are, and I have them try new things. And that's not like putting your kid in every club and every camp, but let them experience it. Let them go and experience different cultures. Let them go on mission trips. Let them work the snack bar. Let them work at a fast food restaurant. Show them up front that that's not the life they want. That's one of the biggest things. Expose them to things that you want them not to do. As crazy as that sounds, to an extent, you're not, no sex, drugs, rock and roll, obviously, but like, hey, do you want to be like Miss Judy, who's been doing this for 40 years and makes very little money? Nothing against that, but is that what you want in your life? No. Well, I just gave her the perspective of, if you choose this path, that's where you're going. Like, if you don't teach your kids that and show them, like, and that's me, call me crazy. I walk through Walmart and I say to them, I say, listen, that person's 62 years old. Why are they still working at Walmart as a greeter? And Sydney will literally tell you, because she's made bad decisions in her life, or she hasn't had the discipline or opportunity to save enough money to retire. My 14-year-old could tell me that at 8 years old, because I taught her that. Do you think that she's gonna have that in the forefront of her mind as she makes decisions financially? Damn right she will. Like, that's the key, I think, is helping them understand what they're seeing. Because they're walking around with eyes. They see everything, especially, you know, little kids, they see everything. Tell them what they're seeing. Not in a bad way or a negative way or anything. Just be real with them. Like, listen, did you enjoy Dinner, yeah, it was great. Did you notice the waiter was in their 60s? Yes. And this is not a judgment, but why do you think they would possibly be like that when grandma that you know is not a waiter or a waitress? Well, and then we talk about it and discussed it. We talked about decisions and how every decision you make is dictating the direction of your future. And 100 good decisions in a row, and then one really bad one can change the entire trajectory. So that's why every decision matters. And we talk about reality. So, and that doesn't mean we should look down on people in food service. Daddy was having these conversations with them when Daddy was in food service. It's not about that, but we're talking about, is this person reading Dave Ramsey and snowballing debt and doing that? Is this person somebody who got a divorce and their spouse took everything from them and they're starting over and they know that their normal job isn't going to get them out of this hole and they're working harder? We talked about every single scenario. It's not just the negative, but it's interesting. Like, so a couple of days ago, my daughter was telling me about somebody she knows at school, and she told me the scenario of what the story she understood to be true around them getting held back. And I said, and you know a story when you hear one as an adult. I said, well, does that sound like an accurate story? No. I said, well, why do you think that story is being told to you? She goes, to make her feel better, or to make it feel like it's not her fault. Like, right? Just helping the child cognitively understand what they're seeing. That's the whole point of it. Yeah, but that's a thought process. They don't learn to think like that until they're taught. Yeah. And it's just like we do stupid stuff, Lorian, like the dollar store challenge. The dollar store challenge, you guys ever heard of that? It's just something they saw on YouTube, this little girl, and did it with her dad. And essentially they're like, all right, we're going to the dollar store, we're filming it. You've got 3 minutes, you got to find 12 things, all that are yellow and edible, go. And they follow them around, it's like a challenge. So we do stuff like that. And we make them think critically, we make them think creatively. That's been really cool. For years we've been doing that. The next thing we do is Sydney goes and sells stuff sometimes at school. And we talk about margins. We talk about, all right, if you buy this for $1 at Dollar Tree and you put it in your lunchbox and sell it at school, what's the minimum markup of how much money you should charge to make sure you're profitable, plus you can buy more inventory? And we've literally gone through these lessons. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Sydney's really interested in it. Brenley's money motivated, Sydney's not. Sydney spends money really fast, Brenley saves. Sydney's the older one, the one that you met earlier. Yeah, so both special and beautiful in their own way. Both have different things that they're into. But it's just interesting. So, like, if you want to motivate Sydney, she's not money motivated. Like, I'll give you $5. That doesn't mean anything to her unless she has something she wants for $5. But if it makes her feel like she's helping somebody, she's in. You know, the other one, if I need her to do something, I have different ways of motivating her. You know, so it's just different, yeah. But business acquisitions, the older one, we literally sat in the pool after the Newark new event. We were down in Orlando. They drove down and met me there. We're staying in one of Carl's Airbnbs. We sat out in the pool for an hour, and she wanted me to tell her why I choose the businesses that I choose that we're looking at. And she knows the difference between a product business and a service business, how service businesses don't have a cost of goods sold and usually inherently have higher profit margins. And I make her, like, she like tells me this stuff back and wants me to write a children's book about it because she's interested. It's like, cool, man. But everybody's different, man. Like, if your dad was like a really nerdy engineer and he's your hero and you love like watching him do his thing and like he's really good at fixing things, like chances are you're gonna grow up interested in something like that. For me, my dad was a fisherman, so that's why I'm interested in fishing. For Sydney and Brenley's dad, their dad's into business, so that's why they're into business, you know? So I always go back to the concept around morals, ethics, to having almost like a code of ethics that we follow, right? So if you're in real estate, there's two ways. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but there's actually something called a real estate agent. And then some real estate agents are something called a realtor. You ever heard of that concept? You know what realtors are? Realtors, right? A realtor is a member of the National Association of Realtors. Compared to, there's people who are real estate agents who are not members. Not very many in like areas like this, but some areas. The difference is they've made a pledge to abide by the code of ethics of realtors. That's the difference, right? So I think growing up, if you don't give your kid a code of ethics, the internet will, number one. Or your neighbors will, or their boyfriend will when they turn 16 and tell them what's okay and what's not, or everybody else will. So I think choosing who raises your kids is first thing. Number two is Do you give them a code of ethics? Whether that's Christianity, whether that's whatever religion you are, whether that's mommy and daddy don't believe in God, but we try to do the right thing, which is, there's a lot of people like that, but I think you get to choose what your kids are exposed to at some level or not exposed to, and then I think actions speak louder than words. But that's what I would say. So in our household, we grew up with Christianity, still have it, of course, and it changes the way they act and they think and the way that they see the world, right? It's more of love and it's just different. But you also have families in Muslim households and it's exactly the same. They have a religion that's really focused around family and love, and that's the way that they're gonna grow up, and they're gonna be good people, contributing and loving, and that's gonna be what they find value in, right? So I think, what code of ethics are you teaching your children? How are they determining whether what they're doing is right or wrong? I'm scared to death of ink. I'd never get a tattoo. Are you crazy? Dude, I would never get a tattoo. Just the thought of getting a tattoo is like scary. Super scary. There's fish jumping everywhere and they're biting everything but my bait. What does that tell you, Lorian? It means I'm an idiot. It means I keep doing the same thing expecting a different result. It means I need to switch baits, maybe something that more closely mimics what they're eating right now, or the fish that are jumping are not the fish I'm after. One of the things I taught today, I've been teaching sales all day, like tiring amount of time, but we talk about disconnecting from the result and focusing on the process. So just what you just said, maybe I'm focusing too much on catching the fish and not focusing on what the fish want to eat. So to summarize, bass fishing and marketing sales they have a lot in common. I love the analogies and the parallels between really understanding where the fish are, what the fish are hungry for, how does the weather and I guess really the water temperature, the time of day, the depth, the clarity of the water, the vegetation, how does that affect the bite? How does that affect whether the fish is gonna bite or not? And then translating that directly to sales and marketing is the exact same thing. So instead of fish, we're talking about our customers, our prospects. We have to know exactly what type of baits they want. What type of baits will they bite? What are they hungry for? What time do they eat? And we can learn how to fish for our prospects. And maybe that's why I love marketing, I love fishing, but that's all I got for you. So please hit the like and subscribe button. You want the algorithm to bring you more of my videos. Hopefully I can catch a couple more fish while we're talking business on the boat. But I'd love to have you more in my world. I teach consulting for equity. I teach surges of income. I teach you how to make money so you can raise your net worth faster and have money to invest outside your normal income. I teach you how to fish for prospects, sales and marketing, and I'll see you in the next video.